Good afternoon on this Sunday afternoon. Hi everyone. It's sunny outside. It's freezing, but it's sunny outside. You got me and Chris here again. Just make sure it's a little. So Chris and I had a good meditation session this morning.
Yeah, it was good.
Opening up a lot of ventures and thoughts and answers. Okay, so it's working. Just making sure it's working. So before we start, what I just want to mention to everybody, and it's not like I care, but I only care for all of you people, because my account got hacked on Friday, and it seems like it's still active. So if you guys can please report my personal account, boris.cabalis. I'm going to end up making a new one sometime this week, but report boris.cabalis so that whoever hacked my account can no longer message you guys, and hopefully it gets taken down, because I'm getting messages left, right, and center that, oh, you're hacked, oh, you're hacked, oh, you're hacked, oh, is this you? No, just so making it clear, boris.cabalis right now is no longer me. It's been hacked, and so go report it, get it off Instagram, and so that way I can make a new one and share more qualitative, better topics with you guys.
And if you want to go a little further, report the loser who hacked him.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the loser actually is messaging people on his own. He's putting his name everywhere.
Pretending it's actually me.
Which is interesting, but gutsy for sure.
So today what we're going to talk about is the importance of mentorship, okay? This does fall back into what we've been talking about, life coaches. We always look up to someone. So why is it that we have a mentor? Is basically, again, we look up to the person, but there's reasons behind why we look up to the person. It could be emotional, it could be physical, it could be just because we know the person. They're an icon to you, they're a hero to you, whatever it is. There's a reason why mentors work, is because they're able to teach us through their life experiences. They're able to teach us what they went through and what they did wrong, so that we don't have to make the same mistakes.
And it's important, like I said last time, that life coaching is that. It's your experience and what you get to give. And that's the only reason, the pros behind the idea that there's no association behind a life coach. Because it's really about you wanting to experience, wanting to learn from someone who has the experience. And I think that's very important to still have in this world.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, if we go, I always go back with the example that I always give. Why? Because it's just easier and it's more personal, and you don't want to just give any example that shows no qualitative results. So my results go with my mentors. So growing up, I always had the mentor. I always looked up to Sako Koivu at the time. Why? Number 11 was a big number for me, I guess. I liked number 11. It resonated with me. But it was also because the character who wore the jersey, he was the captain of the Montreal Canadiens at the time, and why I kind of liked his style of play was not only that he was a leader, but because he had to beat cancer and he came back. I know there's a bunch of other players that do it, but for me, being like a hometown team, seeing it closer to home, it resonated with me more. So I looked up to him more, and I've met him plenty of times too. He's a super nice guy. Humble as well. So for me, my aspect my mentor, or the one person I looked up to growing up in the hockey or sports world, was Sako Koivu. Why? Because he was a leader of the team. So this is a value that I would love to portray, not only for myself, but through my team at Cabalis, through being with my clients, being a leader for my clients as well, and even just in our everyday lives, right? So you want to be a leader. The other one was because, yes, he is nice, but he was also resilient. Resilient, why? Because he overcame his obstacles through cancer, and he always came back to lead the team like he knew how to lead the team. And the other thing is, he was very joyful. So again, I met him plenty of times, and he was just always welcoming us with open arms, and he was just happy to see people and to sign autographs. Now, if I go back to present time, my mentor that I look up to, like, there's a few of them, but the one I really look up to mostly is Dr. Bob Rakowski. And the reason why is because the first time I met him, I've read books on him, I've seen him with podcasts and stuff, I've seen him webinars, but the fact that I actually met him live doing a seminar for, at the time it was Metagenics, his energy was just incredible, and he spoke with so much charisma, but so much confidence and so much knowledge. Like, he never even stuttered a word once. Yes, okay, we could say that he did a lot of practice, he knows his material, this and that, but this is someone with 4 PhDs, okay? He is so knowledgeable, and the way he presents his information was just like, wow. I wanted to be him, right? I could be him eventually, but I would have to just practice, and I still have a long way to go. So, long story short, my reasoning why I like have Dr. Rakowski as a mentor: he's humble. I met him after the seminar, and meeting him after the seminar, I became friends with him. I still keep in contact with him. We're actually, I won't say we're super close, like, hey, buddy, I want to come over. But, I mean, if I need anything, I can contact him with any question, and he's always available to answer me. So that's the friendship I got with Dr. Rakowski. So he's energetic, he's knowledgeable, he's humble. And what I loved the most was that he was real. You could talk to him like a normal human being, and he didn't have his nose stuck up in the air like most people that you meet that think they're, excuse the expression, top shit, right? So,
Stuck up.
there you go. For more political reasons. So that's why I really gelled with Dr. Rakowski, and his energy is just was wow. So why we talk about this, again, it's important to always have someone to look up to, because we are all connected, right? So when you put yourself in someone else's shoes, you're actually putting yourself in how they would react in certain situations. That being said, if I want to be the leader of some team, or let's take my example again of my staff, if I'm in a conflicted situation with one of my staff members, maybe even just a client, instead of reacting impulsively, or instead of just doing what I would normally do and maybe push it aside or whatever the case is, to break the pattern, right? We're always going back to patterns. We always want to break the pattern to change how we are and who we should become. Is I'm going to put myself in Saku Koivu's shoes. Why? Because he's a leader that I looked up to. What would Saku Koivu do in this conflicted situation with staff member or client? You will actually see how your energy changes. The client and therapist might actually sense that too. How you react in the way that someone else would react, calmly, or however the characteristic of the person is, right? But you won't be impulsive, because what happens is you take yourself out of the situation and you take your emotions out of the equation, and you just become neutral to someone who would react to a situation as a third party and just resonate or communicate on a different level, trying to mend things at a deeper level, right?
I think the main thing he's trying to say is you rather follow someone with experience in what you want to learn than someone who doesn't have the experience. For example, my father always told me, you're not going to ask a homeless man about finances. You just won't. Because that individual obviously didn't use his experience properly to get to where he is right now. Yeah. Anthony wants to learn about being someone who can help a team. So he looks at his hockey captain, and that's someone who's going to teach how to be a captain. And that's where you learn from. The importance of that role model is, like we like to say, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's where we're wanting to go. And what's really important about words like jealousy and envy and looking up is that they're all things in the way that that's what I want to get to. That's where I'm going. And that's important, because if you don't know where you're going in circles.
Yeah.
And that's just a mess in itself.
Exactly.
And it's important to follow people, as we were talking, leaders in the topic that you want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to do some study, to do some research. Who really is this person? I, for example, really, really adored Martin Luther King Jr. I love him, and I still do, but I had to learn a few things, and I had to ask myself certain questions, because especially when a documentary came out, the MLK FBI, there's stuff that came out that was like, whoa, oh, there's some dark side to that. It's good to do that. It's good to see a whole thing because we tend to think that, oh, but that person's perfect. No, they're not. No one's perfect. And it's important that you know that if someone like that could admit their faults, you can too. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, very important.
Especially when it comes to role models that give us that lesson.
Yeah,
that it's okay
100%.
not to be perfect.
So why did you like Martin Luther King?
Well, what he stands for. The fact that, it was Martin Luther King first, and then it moved on to Rosa Parks. And now it's Rosa Parks because of one action she does. She decided to say no. She sat in front of a bus, and that's it. And that's another thing, too, I came to learn about finding someone as a role model. It's that one action that they did. It doesn't have to be all of them. Because, if it's true what was mentioned in those documentaries about Martin Luther King, if true, again, we don't know what's really going on outside the world. But it's the fact that if he stood for something, I'm going to stand for something.
Yep.
Rosa Parks said, no, this is wrong, and that was it. And she's right. It was wrong to segregate. And I think that's important because just that one action did so much.
Yep.
She really brought out
She changed everything.
the idea that you can say no, and it's okay. So
You're not the evil person to say no. You're just standing for what you believe in, right?
Exactly.
What your values are.
So that's why when someone tries to, let's say, crap on a person that's your role model, don't let that stop you from having that role model.
Yeah.
Because it's actions that speak louder. But you know what speaks even louder than actions? The intent.
Yeah.
Rosa Parks' intent was simple. I am fed up of this treatment. I'm not doing this no more.
100%.
I think that's very important.
So
5
before we continue, we're gonna get Andrew back here. We're gonna continue with the session we had last week. So we're gonna try and go over who's Andrew's mentors were. What we could do is explain. Like Chris said, you could have mentors for whatever subject you're learning in. It could be sports. It could be your field or career that you're in. So you could either go with one mentor or you could go with 2 or 3. So just pick the ones that you feel resonate with you and why, because their values are the values that you look up to as well.
And look at the intent of why they did something. And, everyone has ups and downs. So does that mean that person's not good enough? No. Actually, it means that those high-end points in their lives, that's what you want to resonate with. Everyone has bad days.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It just means that that's what you want to reach. And that's okay. Go for it. Reach it. So, welcome back. Who's your mentor?
That's a good question. Because what resonates with me is that I don't know that I'm going in circles, but that's probably an underlying feeling I've had a lot of times. Because I've had the opportunity to say stumble in life and then stumble into opportunity continuously. So every time I go into a new environment or a place that resonates with something I want to do in that moment, I've always met a great person, 1 or 2 that have felt like mentors. I don't know that I could identify that one person I put on my wall.
So what I'll say about that is, think back to even as a childhood who you looked up to. Think back to what. Because I have a few mentors myself too, right? We all have a few mentors, but which ones?
I felt wow because of this.
Or wow, or because they imprinted something in you as well.
Oh, so I think that without knowing at the time as a kid, I was inconsistent. I think I struggled with consistency. I was like a flash of brilliance here, and then why is this kid struggling so much? And when it came to hockey originally, I wasn't a goalie, but I remember for some reason always, maybe the first team I saw win a cup would have been the Devils, and I was like, oh wow, who's this young goalie who can score a goal? And I was like, okay, whatever, this will become my favorite player. So Martin Brodeur, and then for forwards I had Fedorov and Yager. And I was like, they could consistently do something well. Fedorov was skilled and could be winning a Selke trophy in a year. Yager could consistently be a leading scorer in the league. Brodeur could If he just kept the pace, which he did most of his career, he'd break any goaltending record there was, and that mattered at the time. In retrospect, I don't think I could call them a mentor because I never really met them,
So
but
you
like,
have to meet them.
but yeah, it resonated with like, wow, there's something they do that I struggle with, which is consistency.
So I'm gonna stop you there.
Yeah.
What's happening in life now, or before you started your journey or your healing journey
Yeah.
with your knee?
Yeah,
What were you struggling with?
multiple things.
But more specific. And
Maybe
you told
help.
me this a lot of times.
Maybe help with memory on it because I can notice everything.
So you always told me that you would start something and never
Yeah,
continue it. Right?
yes, that's who I was always.
So-
been. Yeah, university, jobs, opportunities. I'm 75-80% of the way guy, and then whoops, change direction.
So what happened? You were someone who liked to be consistent because those are the mentors that he looked up to.
Well, I aspire to be, but I'm not. Yeah,
But why? But deep down, that's who you should actually be, is be consistent. Because if you resonated with someone, that means deep down you
I
want
desire
to be, you
to
desire
be.
to be consistent.
Yes. It's like I can see what is a glaring flaw in my being a right character, so I aspire to be more consistent. And
But now look at you. You're more consistent in your relationships. You're more consistent in
Big time.
healing.
yeah,
So this is where we say, or I say usually is, this is the inner person that's actually coming out, the person that Andrew should actually be. So if we would put Andrew back in Fedorov or Brodor's shoes, like we like to say, then this will be much easier for him. So let's say for whatever reason, me and Andrew, we start training. I'm training him, let's say. We'll just take it as an example.
yeah.
Andrew, after 2 weeks, says, he starts coming up with some excuses. I got this to do. I got that to do. I can't make it to this appointment, whatever it is. Then he's drifting off his
Yep.
journey, and he's not consistent.
Yep.
So what he can do is, he could probably meditate to become more consistent, but put himself in his mentor's shoes, that realigns him to be more consistent.
Yeah.
So that's something that you could think of.
And if I can ask personally,
Yeah.
at one point did you have to ask yourself, who do I have to separate myself from?
I think it's something that happens repeatedly in different phases. But I remember, I'd say, when understanding of victimhood or victimization of self in challenging situations, because inadvertently when you're inconsistent and you have, so I'm not naive, but I'm very, I look for trust, so I try and trust others, right? But that walks you into bad situations if you're not aware, right? And prior to becoming what I am now, I was very unaware of the potential downside to being in certain situations or with certain people. So I would incur a lot of damages, which are a lot of them my own doing, because if you're inconsistent, you might have someone who's there for you and they lose trust or faith in you, and then they go from being friend to being foe. What I had to detach from was self. So I had an inconsistency in romantic relationships. I've been codependent, I've been toxic attachment, whatever you want to call it. And it was like a repeated thing. And then I had like a definite identification of self with an injured person, because for a decade it's like chronic pains and injuries, and they just kept happening. They still kind of do. That's like there's a point where you lose who you are because these things happen so much, they become who you are, but they aren't, like Anthony said. The real you is underneath all that sedimentation. So when things got really rocky and I found myself on like without really a place to live, and I was on welfare, and I was like trying to understand what had happened. In reality, what it had been is I'd mismanaged myself and my consistency of just doing anything, like the little things, waking up at a certain time, being at work on time, doing this and that. So then that part of my life is anchored, and then within that, my romantic relationship would have been more stable. And then when all those things collapse at the same time, as they probably do in time, right? You have little blow-ups before the big blow-up happens. When the big one happened, then I found myself without work, without home, and like just kind of in a tailspin of like, okay, what do I have to regulate first so that this doesn't happen again? And a lot of it was just breaking self and realizing this is unhealthy, this doesn't need to remain, this doesn't need to remain. I need to understand that, yes, there were threats, but I didn't see the threats.
So you agree with the fact that you had to let go of something?
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah.
It was me. It doesn't matter who's there, right? It doesn't matter because if you're centered in yourself, you're not going to walk into those situations as readily. Like, rarely do you have a true tyrannical enemy who's like, I'm going to this person. It doesn't happen. You walk into that realm, and regardless of what that person is carrying, what their motives are, you become a useful piece to their world. And if you end up being someone who has a strong sense of freedom, but doesn't know, has no direction, like you guys were talking about, then you're looking for freedom. If you find someone who wants to take that from you, you even if the opportunity is good, you identify that as a threat. So all of a sudden it becomes this massive conflict, but you don't really know where you're going. So it adds to the turmoil, and that also comes from within. Like when you guys are meditating, you're trying to find center, right? You're trying to find self. So that means you got to break everything that keeps you from that. You got to find you.
So if I can summarize
Yes.
pretty much everything that
Sorry,
came
yeah.
out,
We're
it's very good, is the fact that you have mentors, you want to be them, but don't forget that you are you first.
Yeah.
Another thing too you come to realize is that there's your past you, and that's what Andrew let go of, his past, right? And he forgave himself, and now he's a new person.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, of course.
Forgiveness is later. Well, for me anyways, you break that old self, but forgiving yourself for all the things that old you did or didn't do, that's
But that helps when you have a role model who can see that in you.
Yeah.
Or when you can see it in yourself and recognize that it's time to move forwards, right? And it's important sometimes because when we find ourselves in that circle, like you were mentioning, it's because of all that negativity. And like Anthony's mentioning, you got to find someone positive, a role model, a mentor who
Even a
can
friend.
say, even a friend,
yeah.
that makes you realize there's more than all this negativity.
You're okay.
Exactly.
I see the dead in you, the bad in you. You're still okay. There's that in all of us. Like create that room, that empathy, that space for things to grow again. Because like the dirt has gotten barren, and you got to let the seeds kind of flourish. And someone who's you don't become codependent with that person, but they'll water it. They'll see those seeds grow. Other people, it's just it's normal because we're all raised in a certain way that some things are unforgivable. So when they hear your past sins, they're just like, not keep them down, bad. But if you never have that one person who gives you that breathing room, you will believe that you're unforgivable.
Yeah.
And it's gonna.
And that's why sometimes it's important to grow away from certain people.
Yeah.
And that's a part of it. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's growing away from your past self.
Yeah.
So,
I think we got a nice.
that was a
session.
good amount.
Yeah.
That was a good session. Find out your mentor.
That,
and
one that resonates with you. Remember that.
based on what you would like to learn from. So, if someone wants to learn more about finances, find a role model who can help you with finances.
Yeah.
Not someone who's corrupt like Bill Gates. We're just saying that find a topic. If it's spirituality, find someone who wants to talk about it. Someone who's in it, like Infinite Waters. Great guy.
Great guy.
Great guy.
He's
All
been
right.
putting some nice stuff up there, man.
Yes, he has. Infinite Waters. YouTube.
And it doesn't even have to be someone. It could be something. Like, I believe in the universe being my mentor because why? Infinite possibilities. Everything is connected. So, when I do my treatments, I try and put myself in a universe state of mind where everything is connected so that I could connect with my clients so that I could help them much more efficiently. So
And it
things
could
like that.
And it sometimes could be a character on a TV show.
Yep.
For me growing up, Eric Matthews
Oh, yeah.
from Boy Meets
Boy Meets
World
World.
was my hero.
Oh.
Just my hero. Because he put kids first. He knew what it was to be a big brother.
Yep.
And even though things were tough, he still was the guy to make people laugh. Loved him.
And if you guys don't know who he is, Fine.
Love it.
All right, guys. Have
All right.
a good Sunday. It's sunny. Go get some sun,
Have a
and
great
we'll see
week.
you guys next week.
Yeah.
Ciao.
Ciao.